I like this stuff. I had never done it before. Hi everyone, it's Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and today we're talking all about basting your quilts, especially smaller projects like wall hangings or table toppers. Behind me, I've got my spring Fling table topper on the wall. That's the display piece I'll be using today, and yes, it was made with Riley Blake's Love Me More Fat Quarter collection that I absolutely fell in love with. If you're interested in the pattern, the link is in the description. I am going to walk you through several popular basting methods. Some you might already know, and a few might surprise you. I'm going to show you how I use 505 spray, Quilters Select FreeFuse powder, and then a couple of other things along the way. I'll demonstrate fusible batting, washable school glue basting on a smaller sample square, and we'll chat about pin basting and thread basting, even though I'm not going to demo those today. So before we jump in, let's take a quick look at where basting began. Historically, quilters would baste their quilts using large hand stitches, often done on a frame or laid out on the floor, usually in a grid work. Those stitches temporarily held the quilt layers together while they were being either hand quilted or tied. Oftentimes they used curved needles to do that. Eventually, we moved into safety pin basting, which really was faster, it was reusable, and it was a little easier to manage, especially with the rise of machine quilting. We would try and position our pins out of the line of stitching when possible, but again, that did present a little bit of a difficulty when we were doing our sewing once we basted. So now we have an entire aisle of modern products that help us baste faster and really more accurately than ever. So let's talk about those. I have some small blocks just so that I can show you. I know everybody really likes to see the big quilt being basted, but what's difficult with that is it's so big and it's really hard to get it on camera. So I'm going to show you the techniques on a small scale and then you can adapt that to a larger scale. I am going to show you how I basted my table topper. It's a little bit larger and I can actually use the technique that I use when I'm basting a large quilt. So first of all, let's just talk about the products. The four that I have displayed here, I do not have pin basting. Basically, thread basting or pin basting, you either sew a grid or you pin a grid on your quilt top, sandwiching the three layers together and then quilt around them. Those have been kind of common over the years, but we're going to talk about the products. So I'm going to just show you four methods that are pretty common right now. First of all is just using Elmer's school glue. So I have one section here that I'm going to show you how to use the Elmer school glue. You can use it on a small quilt top, you can use it on a block, and you can use it on a full-size quilt if you have the patience and enough glue to do that. The second method will be this one, which is fusible batting. Now, the fusible batting comes with fusible glue or adhesive on either one side or both. This one in particular has the fusible batting just on one side, and I'll show you that. The third way is using the Quilters Select FreeFuse semi-permanent powder. This is an interesting product. I hadn't tried it before, so we'll talk about that. And then the final one is probably one you've heard of. This is the most common, I think, that's used, the 505 basting spray. And I'll show you that as well. So let's start with the first one. Let's talk about our glue basting method. So here we go. This is the block that we're going to actually baste to this particular batting. Now, my Elmer school glue, you just use the regular top. This actually, I replaced the top with a little bit larger hole because it comes out a little faster, but you can just use the regular top that comes with the Elmer school glue. You just want to make sure that you don't have it open too wide. If it's open too wide, then you're going to get globs of glue and you don't want that to happen. So what you want to do, let's pretend this is a large piece. Whenever we're glue basting, we want to make sure that we first of all start at the top with a line of glue or any kind of basting. So we're going to do this. And we are going to press that down with our hand. Now, once that's done, and if it's a big quilt, you'll do it all the way along the edge. Then I'm going to flip this around toward me. And again, pretend this is a large quilt. You're going to roll it up all the way to the point where that glue is. Now keep in mind that this is not dry yet. If you're using a small project, you can actually just put your iron down on it and dry that quickly. But when it's a large piece, you usually need to wait about 24 hours in order for the whole quilt to be dry. So I've dried this, just again, like I say, you just put it on for a few seconds, make sure that it's stuck. Then we're going to roll it back until we get to the point where, right there, that's where it's glued. And then we're going to just put a little string of glue, and we're going to roll it down. Now, if this was a huge piece, it would hold itself. This is small, so it wants to unroll. But there we are at that spot. I can feel it. Then I'm going to go ahead and take another line of glue, and we're going to move it down. And what you want to make sure is you're consistently moving this down, because you can see a little bit of a bubble can form there. We don't want bubbles here. We want it to be nice and smooth. And the glue allows that to happen. So we're just going to keep going down. You don't need a lot. You don't want it globbed so that it's seeping through, but you know, it's pretty forgiving. So as you go along, one more time. Now, one of our followers actually suggested, she said that she has trouble holding on to these bottles, that they're hard. And you can see after a while, once mine's getting kind of low and it sinks down in. She just uses a large bottle that she squirts it on. She found that to be really helpful. And here we're at the end. And there we've got that. Now, like I say, if you want, it's a small piece, you can just go ahead and set it. And there we've got this basically glue basted down. Look at how nice that is. Now, you'll want the backing as well, so you're going to turn it over and do the same process on the back. We're not going to do that here. I just wanted to show you this. But what I want to show you is, this is stuck down. This is nice. Now, we did it all the way just about to the edge. We've got some leeway here. This is our Elmer's School Glue Basting, and these come in huge bottles. You can actually transfer your glue to a larger bottle, and it's a little easier to handle, or you can transfer it into a little tiny bottle. They're super inexpensive. You can find them on Amazon, and depending on the size of your project, it works really well, or you can just use the regular bottle. So that is glue basting. The second method we're going to use is batting that is fusible batting. Now, Pellon makes it. There's all sorts of fusible battings out there. This particular one that I have, you can tell which side is fusible. You can feel the glue. It's almost like a fusible webbing. You can feel that bumpy side. That's where the glue is. This side is not. Now, if you're doing this for a quilt, you can purchase fusible batting that's fusible on both sides. I found it to be very, very thin, and I wasn't crazy about it. So I like it better to have it fusible on one side, and then I can just use, you know, my spray basting, my glue, whatever I want on the other side. But what's nice about this is it does hold it down very neatly and evenly. And if it, again, is a wall hanging, I love fusible. I just love using the fusible batting when I have a wall hanging. I have not used it for a large size quilt. I prefer the other batting for that. But the wall hangings, I think this works well. Now, again, I've cut it a little bit larger than my quilt top or my square. Keep in mind, you've got glue here. You don't want to put your iron on top of that glue. So what you need is some kind of a pressing mat to go over it. Now, this is just used for applique. This is an applique pressing sheet. There's all sorts of them out there. I've had this one for years. But if you put that on top, that fusible adhesive will not stick to this, but it'll still work. So that's why I like to use this, and it presses right through. So we're going to do the same thing with this. Now again, this is a wall hanging, so I would, if it was larger, I would just keep moving my mat as I am pressing. But let's just take a look at this. So I'm going to put it down. Whatever it says on your fusible batting, that's how long you would leave the iron on top. So you want to just make sure that you've left it long enough so that it does fuse as needed. This is pretty permanent. This is not going to come up. So as you can see, I've got it all fused, but it does not stick to my pressing surface. So this is great. Now I'll trim this up, but look, this is stuck. This is really, really down, and look at how nice and flat that is. So again, if you're using it for a wall hanging or a smaller piece, I really recommend the fusible batting. Again, it's very thin, so you're not going to get that plush look or feel to it, but it's a wall hanging, so you don't really need that. So that's our second method. The third method is the Quilters Select FreeFuse. This is a powder. It's a 2-ounce semi-permanent fusible powder. You can buy refill packets for it. One packet can work for basting a fairly large size quilt, one quilt. So you can use it for all kinds of projects as well. It is just a little powder that you will put into, which I've already done, into this salt shaker sort of container. And then when you're ready to baste your quilt, open it up and you're going to just spread that powder on your quilt. Now, from what I understand and from my experience, you don't want to put a whole lot on there, but you really need to experiment what works best for you. It's not something that I can tell you exactly how to do it. You're just going to have to test it out and see. It's washable, dry cleanable, but it is fairly permanent, so you can't reposition it once you pressed it down. It'll pull back, but it's not super easy to remove. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. If you were, you had a larger quilt, this will work for the larger quilt. The advantage of this is it doesn't have those fumes that we get from the 505 spray, and you don't have the wasted product that will go off the edge just from the mist. It's just a little salt shaker kind of powder that we put on our quilt, and then we will iron it down. You usually use a high heat iron and hold it until you feel like you've held it long enough. Every iron is different, so it's hard to really say. So this is how you will put it on. It's hard to see, of course, but it's coming out. And I'm not gonna put a ton on there. You just want to make sure that you've got the area evenly covered. And then you'll do the same thing. You'll press it in sections. So now this one in particular that I've done, I will press it as I go along. It's easy, this is a small square. But in a large square, you're just going to move your iron along as best as you can. Now keep in mind, the powder goes off the edge. Whether I've got something underneath it or I've got my batting underneath it, you still get powder here. It's hard to keep it really controlled right under that block. So once again, I'm going to use my pressing mat and I'm going to put that over the top just to keep that from sticking to it. Okay, so we're just going to place our iron on it again. I'm using a hot iron. And it may work with less heat depending on the iron that you're using, but you're just going to have to test it out. The whole purpose is we want to make sure that we get a nice flat block that has been basted to the batting. So again, the nice thing about that pressing mat, it doesn't stick, but look at this. Isn't that nice? Now this really holds down. You can see, do I have it in every little section of the block? No, because I've just basically used my salt shaker and put it all over the top. But there's going to be some spots where it's missing. The other spots where it is covered hold down the entire block. So you don't have to worry about making sure that the powder is concentrated all over the block. You just need a nice even spray. So that's what we've done here. Now if you look, this is stuck down. This is really nice. It is easy to quilt through. It's easy to position when you put it on there. I didn't have any trouble, even when it's a larger piece. So I'll demonstrate this product actually on my larger table topper, just so that you can see how it works. But this is what we want to do here for this particular one. Now I did put my cardboard underneath so that I have protection for my table. That's number 3. Our fourth test is the OTIF 505 temporary adhesive for fabric. And this is what they say temporary. So you want to make sure when you use it that you then quilt your product, because it can come up after a while. It is a spray adhesive. It does have some fumes, so you want to make sure that you use it in a well-ventilated area. If you have any kind of breathing difficulties, this is probably not a good product for you. But if you are going to use that, again, we're going to do the same thing, kind of like what we did with the FreeFuse powder. We will take our spray, and again, you don't need a ton. You just need to just a little spray. You don't have to rush because it doesn't dry really fast. It actually leaves a little bit of a sticky there. And then you're going to put this on. The nice thing about this is you don't need to iron it. You can just, as I showed you before, you want to make sure that you push it down as you are putting your quilt top over the batting so that it's nice and flat. You don't want any bubbles in there, and the best way to do that is to roll it up and then unroll it. So once we've sprayed this, the block is all basted and we are ready to quilt. Again, it's easy to quilt using this adhesive. Needle goes through it. There's no gumming up of your needle. I have not found that to happen, and it works well. So let's go ahead and baste our spring fling table topper. Now I have it all together right now, but it has not yet been basted. We want to make sure that we have our backing fabric wrong side up Then we put the batting on top of that. We put the quilt top on top of that. Now, if you have needle punched batting, make sure you check and make sure you have the right side up. So this is the backing fabric. I have my batting underneath it, and we're going to baste this on first. We'll put the top on second. So I'm going to show the OTIF 505 adhesive for this, and then we'll do a different method for the front of the quilt. The first thing, of course, with this, it has a lot of fumes with it. You want to make sure that you are in a well-ventilated area. If you have any kind of health issues when it comes to breathing, probably not a good product for you. Now, when I'm using this, I try and put something underneath it just to make sure, because it's sticky, and the sticky stays for a while. I just don't want that stickiness to be around. So again, well-ventilated area and out of the way of anything that it's going to matter if a little bit of the mist gets on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to anchor this down. So this is my first spray, and I'm going to just fold this back, just about that much, not a lot, enough that I can get a spray in here. And you're not going to just really douse it with spray, but just a little bit along the edge. And then you'll want to smooth that down. So this is where my spray is. It's nice and smooth. Then to do the rest of it, I'm going to just turn this around. If you're doing a big quilt, same process, just on a much larger scale. Now, I've got everything smoothed down as best as I can, and then I'm going to roll this up all the way to where I can feel the adhesive taking effect. And it doesn't matter how much you roll it. And there it is. Okay, so this is as far as I have adhesive. And now I'm going to just continue spraying and rolling it back, spraying and rolling it back. So we'll just roll this down, and I want to make sure that I get a nice smooth look. You can see it looks really good, and I can feel it's a little cool where the spray goes on, and I can feel where that is. Okay, so now I'm going to just turn that back. Once again, smooth it down. You don't want any bubbles in it, and there aren't any. It really goes well. And once you get going, even if you're doing a large quilt, I find that this works easily. You can unfold it just 2 times there so that you can feel, and again, I can feel that. But when I fold it back, you know, there it is. You can feel the little bit of tug there. And then I'm just going to finish it up. Same thing, smoothing it down. You don't want to do too big of an area at one time, just because it can get a bubble in it. And doing a small area little by little, going all the way down to the bottom, and then I have a nice adhesive. Now you can see I've got a little bit left here that's not stuck down. You can do this, you don't have to. You've got the main part of your backing basted to your batting. Now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to add our quilt top. We're going to do it the same way that we did with the backing. We're just going to use the powder instead. So once again, now this is where you have to be really careful that it's nice and smooth, because we've got all sorts of pieces here, and it's easy for that to come out of alignment if we're not careful, and we can get a bubble in there. So I'm going to take my FreeFuse, and now I can see where I want to put it. So there we go. I've put a little bit right there, and you can tell using your iron, you want about an iron's width. That's what we're going to do here. We want an iron's width. And I'm careful that I'm not placing my iron on the batting, because I know there might be a little bit of extra powder that came off, and it may be around the edge, and I don't want to get that on my iron. Now you can use your pressing surface again that I showed you, that pressing mat, if you want, but I'm just going to do it this way and be careful. Okay, so now we can see that, oh, yep, it's stuck. So I didn't have it all the way to the edge. If you want to add a little bit more, you can add a little bit more. It's whatever you feel you need, but I just want to make sure that it's nicely basted. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. that I did before. I'm going to take it all the way up to where the powder is, and I can feel it. Okay, I've put that down. There's no fumes, there's nothing. That's the good part about this. Smooth it down and do the same thing. We're going to just take our iron and we are activating that powder and we're causing it to melt. And again, there's no problem quilting through it. It actually quilts quite nicely. And look at how flat that is. Now, this one, you know, there's a little bit of work that you have to do. You do have to press it with the basting spray. You don't have to. Totally personal preference, whatever you want to do. But I really like the way that I think it's, especially for a wall hanging, I think it's pretty easy. And I love the way that it flattens out my top. Now remember, you always want to iron, I'm ironing toward myself, just because I know that's where my glue ends and I don't want any bubbles on this side. So as I'm pressing it, I press it toward me, whatever way you're most comfortable. And it looks like we probably will need maybe 2 more. And I didn't use hardly any of that. I mean, there's a lot left in there, so. And you can see that it lays so nice and flat. And you can use this product for both sides for sure, or you can use the spray basting for both sides, or you can use the glue, whatever works best for you. And here's our last one. Now again, this is where I want to be a little careful because I'm at the edge. So I want to make sure that if there's any powder over here, I don't get it on my iron. So I'm not going to take my iron onto the batting. I just want to make sure that it's here. And there we have it. Isn't that just gorgeous? Look at how beautiful that is. It's nice on the back, it's nice on the front, and we are now ready to quilt our quilt. So let's just do a quick recap. 505 basting spray, the advantages are it's fast and easy. It's perfect for small to medium projects. You don't need pins or threads to remove as you're quilting, and it is repositionable for a short period of time. The disadvantages, it's a little sticky, has a strong odor, so you need to use it in a well-ventilated area. If you have lung issues, don't use it. It can be messy if you've oversprayed it or you've used it a little too heavily. Remember, it's only a temporary bond, so you don't want it to sit too long before you're quilting it. I spray lightly on the batting, smooth the top down from the center out, press gently with your hands or a pressing tool. It works well. The Quilters Select FreeFusible powder. The advantages are it doesn't have an odor. You can't overspray it. You can put a little too much down, but not overspraying. It's great for small spaces. It is repositionable until it's pressed, and it doesn't leave any stiffness in the quilt. But the disadvantages, you gotta have an iron to activate it, so it's a little more time intensive. It can be a little tricky to apply evenly at first. That's why I say you need to test it out. But it is a permanent bond after pressing. So once you've pressed it down, you've actually basted your quilt, there's no going back. You'll want to test your iron also for temperature settings just to make sure. If the adhesive hasn't been activated yet, you'll want to repress to make sure that you've gotten it hot enough in order to activate that powder. The fusible batting, it's simple, it's clean, no sprays, no powders. It saves time because you don't need any extra tools other than your iron. It's really great for wall hangings and table runners. I like it. The disadvantages, yeah, once it's fused, you can't reposition it. There is a bit of stiffness depending on the brand that you use, and you just want to make sure that once you've put it down, it's down. You're not going to move it. The last is the washable school glue, just good old washable school glue. You can put it in different bottles if that's handier for you. Readily available, it's affordable, it washes out completely, and you can actually precisely place your top where you need to. Before it dries, it's repositionable. At that time, you don't need pins, there's no shifting. But it does need to either dry about 24 hours or heat set it with an iron. It can be cumbersome when you're basting a full-size quilt, and it does take longer to apply than sprays or powder. Then again, we have pin basting and thread basting that we talked about. We didn't demonstrate that, where you just want to make sure that you secure your 3 layers with the pins or with a thread in some type of a grid so that you can quilt over that. So there you have it. Whether you're a spray baster or you prefer powder basting, or maybe you're more comfortable with a fusible batting or a bottle of glue, there's really no one right way to baste. Try a few of the methods, see what works for you. If you love the fabric in today's Spring Fling table topper, don't forget, this one here is the Love Me More collection from Riley Blake. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite way to baste? Or do you have any questions that I didn't answer? I am always here to help. So until next time, I'm always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Thank you for watching.